On the Monday, September 1st episode of The Young and the Restless, Audra confesses, Nate and Victoria commiserate, and Jack vows to take Victor down. Nate entered Crimson Lights and immediately turned to the counter when he spotted Audra. She approached him and asked how he was doing. He flatly replied that it wasn't her concern. Audra reported that Amy had told her he hadn't been sleeping. Nate griped that he wasn't comfortable with them talking about him, but Audra defended that both she and Amy cared. Nate snapped that it was news to him, since Audra had walked out on their last conversation. Audra admitted she'd been wrong to overreact, and she asked if there was any way they could fix it. Nate doubted fixing things was possible, and he wondered if she even knew what she wanted. Audra contended that being with Nate had made her want to make a commitment, and she asked what she could do to make amends. Nate reiterated that the truth was all he wanted. Audra confessed that she'd agreed to Victor's quid pro quo by going after Kyle to get funding for Vibrante. Audra swore that she would never have slept with Kyle, and Victor hadn't asked her to. Nate barked that she'd had no problem kissing Kyle, but Audra was adamant that she felt nothing for her ex. Nate sourly surmised that she'd simply made a calculating business decision to blow up a couple's relationship to get her hands on a company. Audra reminded him that she'd been desperate for work after months without a job offer. Nate assumed she'd had no twinge of conscience. Audra claimed that she hadn't been happy with the price attached to Victor's terms, but she'd thought long and hard about it before she'd accepted. Nate was appalled that she wasn't bothered that Victor had weaponized her to destroy his granddaughter's relationship, or that she could have broken an innocent young woman's heart. Audra reasoned that if Kyle was willing to go as far as she suspected, Claire would be better off without him. Audra cried that she'd never wanted to lie to Nate or see anyone get hurt. Nate pointed out that she supposedly wanted to be in a loving relationship with honesty and trust, but she'd had no problem trying to gut a loving relationship for a job. Nate spat that she'd spent weeks lying to him about it repeatedly because running a company had mattered more than him. Nate raged that there was something wrong with her if she didn't see that as a betrayal. Nate walked out over Audra's protests as Amanda looked on. Amanda approached Audra and asked if everything was okay. Audra replied that her relationship with Nate was between them. Amanda mentioned that she and Nate had been close once, and she'd noticed he and Audra were also close, but she'd thought Audra and Kyle were a thing based on their behavior in Nice. Audra insisted that her interaction with Kyle was purely professional, and she headed out. "Good to know," Amanda muttered with a smirk. Victoria ran into a forlorn Nate in Chancellor Park and asked if everything was all right. He cited the beautiful summer evening and contemplated what could be wrong. "Everything," she replied, and she surmised he was missing his brother. Victoria was glad Nate had people in his life who were there for him, like Amy and Audra. Victoria also offered to be there for him the way he'd supported her and Claire. Nate confided that things weren't working out with Audra. Victoria noted that he'd seen something in Audra that everyone else hadn't. He lamented that he'd only seen what he'd wanted to see, and Audra had finally been honest about what had happened in Nice. Victoria shared that she was equally mad at Victor for stirring up memories of how he'd interfered in her past relationships. Victoria inquired whether there was a way for Nate and Audra to get past it. Nate recalled that he'd also leaned into his dark side to feed his ambitions, but Victoria noted that his conscience had rescued him. Nate bemoaned that Audra didn't seem to have one, and things were over between them for good. Victoria contemplated where a good bottle of bourbon was when they needed one. Nate appreciated her letting him open up to him, and Victoria replied that it was what friends were for. Diane met Jack at Society, with apologies for being late. She explained that she'd hoped to meet him at home, but she hadn't been about to stand in the way of their son's proposal. Jack feared that Claire wasn't ready for such a big step, or that it might seem like an overwrought attempt to make up for Kyle's near betrayal. Diane hoped Claire got caught up in the romance. Jack figured all they could do was hope for the best. Diane asked how serious Jack was about launching a counterattack against Victor. "Dead serious," Jack replied. Jack growled that there was nothing heroic about Victor backing down from objecting to Kyle and Claire's relationship, and he was determined not to let Victor bully their son. Jack filled Diane in about Billy's plan to take back Chancellor. Diane questioned what had happened to Jack's resolve to let his brother go after Billy had walked away from Abbott Communications. Jack figured that it had been his instinct when Billy had been sucked into Kane's vortex, but he and Billy had since had some open, honest conversations. Jack found it difficult to pass up the chance to join forces to teach Victor a lesson. Diane still had reservations about Billy, but she encouraged Jack to go for it if it meant hitting Victor where it hurt. Diane figured that Victor could only be hurt through his family or his companies, and the Abbotts had the decency not to go after family members who didn't deserve to suffer. Jack pointed out that going after Chancellor would hurt Nikki. Diane huffed that, unlike Jack, she didn't believe Nikki needed to be protected at every turn. Diane anticipated that Jack might never retaliate, because any shot against Victor would also be felt by Nikki. Diane lectured that Victor would never pay as long as Jack put Nikki's feelings ahead of Kyle, so Jack had to choose. Jack vowed to end Victor's reign of terror against the Abbott family by stopping him once and for all. Diane warned that Billy was a wild card who wouldn't stop until he either won or was crushed, and the only way the plan would work was with Jack's patience and guidance. Diane recognized that Jack had the means to take Victor down for good, but the question was whether he would. At the Abbott mansion, Kyle surveyed the romantic setting in the dining room and declared it perfect. He turned on some music and removed the ring box from a drawer. He smiled down at the engagement ring inside before returning the box to the drawer. He flashed back to when he and Claire had first professed their love. His thoughts shifted to Claire, demanding to know what had happened between him and Audra in Nice. Kyle pledged to win back Claire's trust with a fresh start that night. Claire arrived at the front door and paused before ringing the bell. Kyle invited her in, and Claire observed that he'd gone all out. Kyle asserted that the night meant everything, and Claire complimented the fancy champagne. Kyle admitted that he'd been afraid she might not show up, and he recognized that she was conflicted because he'd broken their trust. He promised that he would do everything he could to rectify it, and he toasted to the woman who'd shown him what true, pure love was. He considered himself lucky if she could find it in her true, pure heart to forgive him. Kyle pleaded that he wanted and needed Claire to understand how sorry he was, and he would always regret not being honest with her. He rambled about being an idiot for telling himself he'd been protecting her, and he realized it had been a mistake to try to set a trap for Audra. Claire pointed out that he also could have told her the truth from the beginning, and she questioned whether he ever would have told her the whole story if she hadn't pushed. Kyle claimed that his conscience hadn't let him sleep in weeks, and he'd known the only option was to tell the truth. Kyle wanted to get back to the way he and Claire had been, but she considered it impossible. He was determined to get through it and become stronger and more committed than ever. He asked if she thought it was possible to make her see she could trust him again. Claire wanted to believe it was possible, but she insisted that they take things slowly. Kyle led Claire to the dining room and presented her with bouillabaisse, one of her favorite dishes. Claire sampled it and proclaimed that it was the best she'd ever had, and Kyle intended to learn to cook it himself in their very own kitchen. He mentioned that Adam had called to ask if they were still interested in buying his condo, if she still wanted to live together. Claire replied that she did, but she clarified that what she wanted and what was possible might not be the same thing. Kyle believed everything was possible if he and Claire still loved one another. He conceded that he'd let her down, but he urged her to never doubt his love or how much she'd changed his life. Kyle gushed that seeing her bond with Harrison made him love her even more, and he intended to spend the rest of his life proving she was worthy of her trust. He envisioned talking about that moment 50 years from then as one facet of their amazing story, and he retrieved the ring box. Kyle dropped to one knee and revealed the engagement ring to Claire, whose jaw dropped. A stunned Claire asked what Kyle was doing, and he replied that he didn't see any point in putting off the future. He suggested they dive into the deep end and take the greatest adventure of all, adding that the only person in the world he could imagine loving more than Claire Newman was Claire Abbott. "Will you marry me?" he asked. "Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. On The Young and the Restless, tomorrow, Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, Kyle's plan doesn't go as he hoped. We've got the photo spoilers of what's coming up. On The Young and the Restless, Phyllis has been left between a rock and a hard place when Kane put his plans on hold. Or as he told her, the plan is dead. See you soon. Indefinitely. But Phyllis saw the tiniest glimmer of hope that he would change his mind, so she is still 100% on Team Kane. What Phyllis doesn't know is that Kane is hoping that she will be as predictable as possible and spread the word to all of Genoa City that Kane's sole focus is his kids, and repairing the damage that he did not tell them he was an overnight success and a billionaire. Sure enough, Phyllis is letting everyone know that she is on the side of the guy she believes is going to change her life, and is confident he'll be the victor. She might be right about Kane's lucky streak, but will she getting a piece of the pie? Kyle told his parents that he was ready to propose, moments after telling them that he had hurt Claire by not telling her the truth about what really went down with Audra in France. Jack and Diane tried to dissuade Kyle from his knee-jerk reaction, but he forged ahead. Even when Claire told him that if they were going to continue seeing one another, they had to take it very slow to rebuild her trust, Kyle agreed, then whipped out a ring. Will Claire accept his proposal? Or was this a tone-deaf moment for Kyle? Kyle thinks his grand gesture will fix everything, but Claire questions Kyle's sincerity even more after he proposes. Kyle laments to his parents again that the proposal didn't go the way he had hoped. Claire goes to Crimson Lights. Can Esther give her some advice that will help? Claire's upset with Kyle, and Holden is available to talk to. How convenient. When she tells him what's going on, Claire and Holden come up with a plan. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, have Victor driving a hard bargain with Kane, Claire catching Kyle off guard, and Amanda taking a risk for Phyllis. Victor has been staying one step ahead of Kane for some time now. He had figured out that Aristotle Dumas was Kane Ashby before he went to France. Recently, he's given Kane a letter saying that his fortune was acquired in a shady way. On Tuesday's show, watch for Victor to continue to have the upper hand with Kane as he drives a hard bargain with the billionaire. Is Victor going to circle back on his plan to get Kane to help him take down Jack Abbott? Or does Victor have another scheme up his sleeve? Kyle thought the best way to make Claire feel secure was to propose marriage to her. At first, Claire didn't even want to meet Kyle for dinner, but then she gave in and accepted. Claire has admitted that her being raised by her Aunt Jordan has caused her to mistrust folks. When Kyle kept quiet about kissing Audra in France to expose her scheme with Victor, Claire shut down. Sure, she knew in her head that Kyle didn't want to share this with her when she was grieving her late father, Cole. But Claire still felt that Kyle went too far with Audra, and he waited too long to tell her. Will Kyle want to hear what Claire has to say to him? Phyllis doesn't have many gal pals in Genoa City. She may have mended fences with Sharon, courtesy of their life-and-death kidnapping ordeal. But even that dynamic seems precarious. Fortunately, she has a solid friend in Amanda. That friendship will be tested on Tuesday's episode when Amanda takes a risk for Phyllis. They're both connected to Kane through work, but they work for him. It's not the other way around. If Amanda tries to take action that will benefit Phyllis, but could cost the attorney her job, well, their friendship could be in jeopardy. Sean Dominic delivered an unforgettable month on The Young and the Restless, bringing raw emotion and simmering intensity to Nate's journey as he confronted lies, faced his grief, and sought connection with family. In August, The Young and the Restless placed Nate Hastings front and center, and Sean Dominic rose to the occasion with a series of standout performances. Whether facing betrayal from Audra, mourning the loss of his brother Damien, or grounding himself in scenes with Lily and Devon, Dominic brought depth and honesty to every moment. His ability to balance strength with vulnerability made Nate one of the most compelling characters of the month, and earned him recognition as Soap Hub's Performer of the Month. Sean Dominic showcased his best work this month in scenes opposite Zuleika Silver's Audra. After weeks of suspicion, Nate finally pressed her into revealing the truth about what really happened in Nice. Dominic played Nate's persistence with a measured intensity, his frustration visible in the smallest shifts of tone and expression. When Audra tried to deflect and shift blame, Dominic's Nate didn't back down. He delivered a layered performance that highlighted Nate's intelligence and determination, while also showing the emotional weight of betrayal by someone he thought he could trust. Dominic also brought depth to Nate's quieter moments of grief following Damien's death. His scenes captured the pain of a brother struggling to balance his own sorrow while offering support to others. Whether it was his raw reflection on Amy's struggles or his quiet vulnerability when discussing Damien with those closest to him, Dominic carried the weight of loss with subtle strength. It wasn't just about sadness. He conveyed the complicated layers of mourning, from disbelief to quiet resilience. Dominic brought a quiet intensity to Nate in his scenes with Victoria, following Cole's and Damien's deaths. His performance captured the weight of grief and the complex mix of loyalty, guilt, and longing for connection. Every glance and pause conveyed a depth of emotion, making their interactions feel raw, authentic, and heartbreakingly human, hearkening back to when Victoria and Nate shared more than friendship. Equally compelling were Dominic's scenes with Lily and Devon. Together, the trio created a portrait of cousins trying to find stability in chaos. Dominic's Nate became the thoughtful middle ground, pressing for truth, but also yearning for unity. His work opposite Khalil and James emphasized Nate's desire to reconnect with family, even as corporate battles and personal betrayals threatened to widen the distance between them. This month, Sean Dominic proved why Nate continues to be one of the most compelling characters on Y&R. His commanding presence, emotional honesty, and ability to bring nuance to every exchange made his August performances impossible to ignore. He shared a half-truth, which doesn't bode well for their relationship. This week's messiest move goes to Kyle on The Young and the Restless. He confessed everything to Claire, but only gave her half-truths. She still doesn't know what went down in Nice. Kyle hopes that his half-truth, half-hearted apology, and half-baked marriage proposal will be enough to make her happy. Kyle confessed to Claire about what happened between him and Audra in Nice. They kissed in his sleeping car. However, he didn't explain how it went down. Audra and Kyle were having a heavy makeout session on his bed, while he was just in a towel. Claire isn't sure whether to trust Kyle. Now, in a moment of panic, Kyle wants to make it right by proposing to Claire. He believes that his commitment will make her forget all about his transgressions, but he's already destroying the trust by not telling her the whole truth. Kyle acts like he's better than Audra, yet Audra was more truthful with Claire than her boyfriend was. Now, Kyle thinks he can fix their relationship with an engagement. He convinced himself that a proposal would magically fix everything, but he forgot that he's going against someone else's wishes, and that someone else is Summer. Before she left for Milan, she told Kyle not to tell Harrison about their plans to move in together until she returned. Now, Kyle's acting like Mr. Fix-It. He thinks he can go above Summer's wishes and Claire's needs. In his mind, he's doing what he thinks Claire would want, which is further from the truth. Claire isn't sure how to navigate this situation since it's her first relationship. The last thing they need is to rush down the aisle. The faster the move, the more their relationship will crash and burn, and the people who wanted them to crumble will be watching from the sidelines and laughing. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal there are some comings and goings. For the week of September 4th, 25, fans can expect Amanda Sinclair to continue another stint back in Genoa City. Plus, Tamara Braun and Roger Howarth are coming on board. Keep reading and let's get started talking about the casting changes in the CBS soap opera. Let's start off with Amanda, who returned on Friday, August 29th, 2025. The lawyer met with Kane Ashby, who just got down claiming he's backing off of the takeover. The truth is that Kane hasn't given up, but he's just trying to get everyone's attention off of him. It's hard to make secret moves when everyone is watching. Kane will also have a brand new assignment for Amanda. The lawyer will take a risk to help out an old friend, Phyllis Summers. Amanda will also have scenes with Jack Abbott, Diane Jenkins Abbott, and Audra Charles. Now, let's get to some exciting casting news. Tamara Braun is joining the soap as Sienna Bacall. The character is described as being someone with personal connections to multiple GC residents. She is starting to film scenes this week, so expect to see her in fall 2025. Braun previously played Ava Vitali on Duel. The actress also played Carly Corinthos, as well as Kim Nero. In All My Children, she played Reese Williams. At one time, she also played a second character on Days Taylor. The Young and the Restless comings and goings reveal that Roger Howarth is also joining the CBS soap opera. The character name and details are still being kept under wraps. In the past, fans have seen Howarth on General Hospital as Todd Manning, Franco Baldwin, and Austin Gatlin Holt. The actor also played Rory on Guiding Light, Kent Winslow on Loving, and Todd Manning on One Life to Live. He also portrayed Paul Ryan on As the World Turns. There will be some more scenes featuring Holden Novak. The man will unite with Claire Grace Newman to teach Audra a lesson. So, stay tuned to find out what happens next. Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most during the week of September 1st, 2025? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Keep watching the soap on CBS or Paramount Plus to find out what happens next. Nate seems to be at a crossroads, both personally and professional. Nate is going through a lot lately. He broke up with Audra, and suddenly, his worst fears came true. Claire accused Audra of making a deal with Victor that required her to seduce Kyle. Nate's lost his brother and now his girlfriend. He seems to be at a crossroads on The Young and the Restless. Nate ended his relationship with Audra. He already had doubts about their relationship before her trip to Nice. Audra told Nate that she was struggling to land a deal, and now she told him that Victor refused to fund Vibrante. In addition, Claire claimed Audra had been scheming to end her relationship with Kyle and accused her of kissing Kyle. Meanwhile, Audra struggled to explain each of her wrongdoings. Now, Nate realized that the red flags were there all along. He brushed them off because he believed that she had changed for the better. Nate will likely reunite with Victoria. They're both in mourning right now. Victoria is grieving the loss of Cole, while Nate lost his brother Damien. That's not the only thing he's going through. Nate is going through a crossroads in his life. He just doesn't know it yet. He still has that kind and compassionate Dr. Nature. He used that to take care of Amy, but he had to transition into the corporate world after his injury. However, Nate is no longer interested in corporate wars. He also wishes his girlfriend would end up the same way. So, what's next for Nate? Even if he eventually gets back together with Victoria, who seems to be going through the same experience. Like Nate, Victoria isn't interested in the corporate shakeups involving Kane. She enjoyed her little family with Cole and Claire, and Nate enjoyed the family dynamic he shared with Audra and Amy. See where we're going with this? The last time that Nate and Victoria were together, they were both entrenched in corporatism, and it ruined them. Could their newfound shared values bring them back together? Welcome to the Young and the Restless Daily YAPP for a quick, and by that, I mean you're already halfway done, recap of the most amazing or what the heck did we just watch moments on today's episode. Let's get to it. On The Young and the Restless, we kind of forgot that Audra and Amanda didn't know one another. And while they may have known about one another, Audra didn't realize that Amanda is Nate's ex. So imagine our delight when Audra's eyebrows raised, something she's usually good at hiding, when Amanda mentioned that she and Nate had a history. Now there's a showdown we'd actually root for, but not for who wins the guy. Regardless of whether or not Nate took Audra back, or if he was interested in rekindling things with Amanda, we see something better for these two. For all of their differences, Audra and Amanda have some qualities in common, including their sharp businesswoman drive. If they could get along and put their heads together, they might be able to be the hidden force that the Genoa City business elite need to shake things up and take control. Enough with the Abbott-Newman swipes and the constant, "Ooh no, Kane might steal my privately owned company" nonsense. Pair up Audra and Amanda and let these women take over the town and the CEO chairs. Want more details? We got you! Soap Central has the best full Y&R recaps on the internet. You can even go back over 30 years and read each and every one of them. If you can't wait until the next episode, we have daily spoilers too. And whatever you do this weekend, do not, seriously, do not forget to read the 2 scoops for some laughs in the as close as we can come to being a watching party without actually being a show. And the best part is, if you agree or disagree, we want to know. As always, share your comments below. The Young and the Restless spoilers show that fans are speculating about the status of some of the show's biggest stars. The speculation comes on the heels of the soap adding an influx of new actors. The rumors are flying on social media, indicating that many Y&R viewers fear cast cuts and departures, given that so many newbies have been added. Let's unpack what the brouhaha is all about. Billy Flynn is a big daytime name who recently joined the cast, leaving Days of Our Lives to join Y&R as a Kane Ashby recast. Since his debut, the show has spun around Kane and his shenanigans. In recent months, there have been several departures, including Cole Howard, Summer Newman, Damien Kane, and Chance Chancellor. In the case of Floyd, he migrated to Duel as a recast of Flynn's previous character, Chad Dimera. In recent days, 2 other soap vets have been announced as cast additions, Tamara Braun and Roger Howarth. Braun has worked on Duel and GH. She's been cast as Sienna Bacall and debuts this fall. Howarth starred on GH and One Life to Live. He will begin taping scenes soon and debuts later this year. Both actors are popular soap vets, and as such, the audience is excited to see them join the Sudsur. At the same time, a few fans are wondering if there will be consequences as a result of the hirings. Braun and Howarth deserve top dollar. This could mean the budget is trimmed in order to accommodate them. Will the show balance the budget by Pink slipping some actors? That remains to be seen, and this line of thinking is pure conjecture at this point. At this time, there is no word about any actors being put on recurring status or being let go. But it's reasonable to think this could happen with Flynn, Braun, and Howarth joining the #1 rated daytime drama. And you never know if there are more hirings on the horizon. Now it's your turn. Tell us what you think of Flynn, Braun, and Howarth joining the cast. The Young and the Restless spoilers are in for the week of September 1st, 2025. Fans can expect Amanda Sinclair to take a risk. Holden Novak and Claire Grace Newman form an alliance. Plus, Michael Baldwin receives a new opportunity. Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Let's start off with Amanda, who just returned to Genoa City. The very first thing she did was meet with Kane Ashby. The tycoon is getting the spotlight off of him, then he will strike when people least expect it. Back to Amanda, Kane will have a special assignment for her. It is also teased that Amanda takes a risk to help Phyllis Summers. However, by Friday, Phyllis will have overplayed her hand. Over with Holden, he and Claire team up to go after Audra Charles. Soon after, Claire has a heated encounter with Audra. It's interesting that Holden will agree to go after Audra. At one point, all he wanted was Audra back. Plus, what happens when Claire learns about Holden's deal with Kane? She will just feel betrayed all over again. The Young and the Restless, spoilers for the week of September 1st, reveal that Kyle Abbott proposes to Claire. However, I think that Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins Abbott are right. The timing is awful, and it will just look like he's overcompensating for being found out. In fact, it could look more suspicious than romantic. This tactic might work on someone who is more emotional. However, Claire is more left-brained, so she won't want a lifetime commitment until she knows Kyle can be trusted. Fans can also expect Audra to ask Nate Hastings for a second chance. Meanwhile, Billy Abbott makes a commitment to Sally Spectra. Is this a business or personal commitment? If it's a proposal, that could make Sally hesitant to share her news with Audra. Also, Nikki Newman has a romantic surprise for Victor Newman. Michael is presented with a new opportunity. What if Kane is going to offer Michael a deal? There is also Lily Winters. The woman will continue to urge Kane to come clean. So what will he do next? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most during the week of September 1st, 2025? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Keep watching the soap on CBS or Paramount Plus to find out what happens next. Kane confessed. Now the ball is in his kids' court. This week's slow burn goes to Kane's kids on The Young and the Restless. He finally confessed everything. Now the ball is in their court. Will they finally forgive their father for all he's done? Lily encouraged Kane to make things right by confessing to their kids about everything that happened. He created the Aristotle Dumas alias to start his own business empire. Everything turned out to be a lie, And now the so-called Duma is a cheat, a liar, and a fraud. So instead of snapping up everyone's businesses in Genoa City, he wants to get his family back. Kane shared a video with Maddie and Charlie, explaining everything he did and why he did it. Kane was tired of failing and wanted to prove to himself and his family that he could be successful. He's hoping that his kids will forgive him for lying to them all this time. It's up to his kids to decide whether they still want a relationship with their father. Arguably, though, having an alias doesn't make him a cheat or a liar. Kane isn't the only one who's used an alias to become a billionaire overnight. He wasn't trying to deceive his family. He was working hard to become successful, and he managed to pull it off. Obviously, it's going to take Kane's kids some time to forgive him, but they need to realize that he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt them. We could see this storyline become a slow burn, and eventually they could return to Genoa City. It's not fair not to have them on the soap. Kane and Lily waste no time dropping their names every time they talk. Hopefully, this means that Maddie and Charlie will come back in some form. We'd love to see their reaction to their father's apology. And maybe this reunion could bring Lily and Kane back together again. Of course, their reconciliation will also be a slow-burning one, in which Kane will have to rebuild Lily's trust.